James Donovan stood in his towering New York office, gazing out at the never-ending hustle of the city below. Despite his immense wealth, power, and influence, an unshakable emptiness lingered within him. He had everything except true love. Frustrated with superficial relationships that revolved around his fortune, he resolved to take drastic action. He yearned to be loved for who he was, not for what he possessed. After much contemplation, James devised a bold plan. He would leave his high-profile life behind and live as an ordinary man. To ensure his absence raised no suspicions, he secured trust agreements with his team. Once everything was set, he disappeared to a quiet coastal town where no one knew him, adopting the name James Carter. He rented a modest home and took a job at a small cafe, embracing a new, simpler way of life. Dressed casually, with unkempt hair and a relaxed demeanor, James blended in seamlessly with the town's residents. He committed himself to learning the cafe's daily routines, from brewing coffee to washing dishes. Unexpectedly, this experience filled him with a sense of freedom he had never known before. One rainy morning, James met Grace. She rushed into the cafe, shielding herself from the downpour with a broken umbrella. He was drawn to her warmth and genuine nature. Unlike others he had encountered in his past, Grace treated him as an equal, engaging in effortless conversation. She owned a small flower shop inherited from her late mother, and struggled to keep it afloat against the rising tide of large online competitors. Over time, their bond deepened. Grace visited the cafe daily, and James found himself drawn to her sincerity. He admired her unwavering dedication to preserving her mother's legacy, even in the face of adversity. Wanting to help, he started assisting at her flower shop on his days off, learning about flowers and contributing discreetly to her business. Their relationship grew organically, built on shared moments and heartfelt conversations. For the first time, James felt he was experiencing something real. However, a nagging fear lurked in his mind. How much longer could he keep his true identity a secret? He had finally found the love he longed for, yet deception tainted its foundation. The closer he got to Grace, the heavier the guilt became. Would she forgive him if she learned the truth? Would she still love him? As days passed, James became increasingly cautious, dodging questions about his past and avoiding discussions about money. Grace noticed his reluctance but chose to trust him. Still, a quiet tension grew between them. Then, the inevitable happened when an old acquaintance from James's former life arrived in town, instantly recognizing him. Panicked, James managed to brush off the encounter, but he knew it was only a matter of time before his secret unraveled. Grace sensed something was wrong. James seemed distant and burdened, yet he wouldn't confide in her. Doubt crept into her heart, eroding the trust they had built. She started noticing inconsistencies in his stories and evasions whenever deeper questions arose. Though she cared for him, she couldn't ignore the feeling that he was hiding something significant. The breaking point came one evening when Grace invited James to dinner. The atmosphere was intimate and warm, but she could no longer hold back her concerns. Looking him in the eye, she softly asked, "Who are you really, James?" The question hit him like a thunderbolt. He had anticipated this moment but was unprepared for the emotions that flooded over him. His heart pounded as he wrestled with the truth. Should he confess everything and risk losing her, or should he weave another lie to protect their fragile happiness? In a desperate attempt to salvage their relationship, James spun a new story. He claimed he was a businessman from a big city who had been betrayed by those he trusted, losing nearly everything. Seeking a fresh start, he had come to this town to rebuild his life. Grace listened intently, her eyes filled with both surprise and sympathy. The story made sense, and she wanted to believe him. "I just didn't want to drag you into my past," he admitted. "You're the first person in a long time who has made me feel like I could have a new beginning." Grace nodded, understanding, yet uncertain. Though she accepted his explanation, a seed of doubt remained. The walls between them had not fully crumbled. She wished he had been honest from the start, but decided to give him the space he needed. In the following days, James tried to maintain the facade, but the burden of his deception grew heavier. Grace, though outwardly reassured, watched him closely. Something still didn't add up. He was kind, hardworking, and genuine, but at times she caught glimpses of something deeper, something hidden. One afternoon, while arranging flowers, she asked, "Do you ever think about returning to your old life someday?" Caught off guard, James hesitated before answering. "I don't know," he admitted. "The life I had before, it wasn't good for me. Even if things changed, I don't think I'd go back. Here, with you, I've found something far more valuable." Grace smiled but remained cautious. Despite his words, a lingering question remained in her heart. Was this the whole truth? And if not, how much longer until it all came crashing down? Grace smiled, appreciating James's answer, but a lingering doubt still remained in her mind. She wanted to trust him, to believe every word he said, but something felt unfinished, as if a part of the truth remained hidden. Despite this, her feelings for him were undeniable, and they continued spending time together, sharing their dreams and hopes for the future. As James became more immersed in this new life, he began to change. The world of luxury and power he once thrived in no longer held the same appeal. The simplicity of the small town, the peace he found in his daily routines, and his growing bond with Grace made him question everything he once valued. He realized that true fulfillment didn't come from wealth or status, but from the moments that made him feel alive, the laughter, the quiet walks, and the warmth of genuine connection. Yet, a shadow of fear remained. James knew that sooner or later the truth would surface, and the trust he was slowly rebuilding with Grace would shatter. He was trapped in the web of lies he had spun, and though he knew he needed to be honest, he couldn't bring himself to confess. His transformation was just beginning. He was evolving into someone new, someone who valued authenticity, but his past still clung to him, threatening to unravel everything. For now, the story James told Grace kept their relationship intact, though cautiously. Trust was still distant, but their shared moments at the cafe and flower shop strengthened their bond. Grace harbored doubts, yet James's steady presence reassured her. Their conversation shifted to the future, envisioning ways to expand the shop and perhaps even staying in town for good. One afternoon, as James struggled with a bouquet, Grace teased, "You're actually good at this." He grinned. "Maybe I've found my true calling." Slowly, her fears faded, replaced by genuine affection. Evening walks turned into quiet moments of connection, until one sunset at the pier, Grace finally admitted, "I never expected someone like you to change my life." James turned to her, his gaze full of warmth. "That's one of the things I admire about you, Grace. You're strong, determined, and you truly care about what matters." She smiled but hesitated before continuing. "I do care, and that's why I worry. I know you're running from something. Or someone. I try not to let that come between us, but I can't help wondering, will there come a day when you'll just disappear?" James felt his chest tighten. He had hoped to keep his secret buried a little longer, but Grace's words reminded him that deception had consequences. He gently took her hand and said, "I'm not leaving, Grace. I don't want to run anymore." She searched his eyes, longing to believe him. "I want to trust that, James. I really do." In the days that followed, their bond grew stronger. James found himself more at ease with the simple life they were creating together, and Grace began to let go of her doubts. But no matter how peaceful their days seemed, the truth loomed over them, a silent weight neither could ignore. Then, everything changed. One morning, as James arranged flowers in the back of the shop, a new customer walked in on a well-dressed man with an air of authority that seemed out of place in the quiet town. Grace greeted him politely while assisting another customer, but the man barely glanced around before his eyes landed on James. His expression shifted to shock. "James Donovan?" he said, his voice cutting through the shop's calm atmosphere. Grace turned sharply toward James, confusion written across her face. She had never heard that name before, and judging by James's reaction, something was terribly wrong. James felt his breath catch. The man standing before him was a former business associate, someone who knew exactly who he was. He tried to remain composed, but the damage was already done. "I can't believe it," the man continued with a disbelieving laugh. "Hiding out in a small town like this, after everything you've built?" Grace's gaze flickered between the stranger and James. "James, what is he talking about?" James's world crumbled in an instant. This was the moment he had dreaded, the moment he could no longer hide. He swallowed hard. "Grace, I can explain." Her face was a mixture of hurt and anger. "Explain what? Who are you?" James took a shaky breath. "My real name is James Donovan. I'm a billionaire. I lied about my past so you wouldn't know who I really was." Grace stepped back, her heart sinking. "You lied to me?" she whispered. "I wanted to be loved for who I am, not my money," James pleaded. But the damage was done. Trust shattered. Grace's voice trembled. "How can I believe anything was real?" James reached for her. "My love for you was never a lie." Tears in her eyes, Grace shook her head. "I need time." She walked away, leaving James alone, crushed by the weight of his choices. Determined to prove himself, James secretly helped Grace's flower shop thrive, securing better suppliers and boosting its visibility, all without her knowing. When she discovered the truth, she confronted him. "I found out what you did," Grace said. James lowered his gaze. "I just wanted to help. Not for forgiveness, just because I love you." Still hurt, but moved by his sincerity, Grace hesitated. "It'll take time, but maybe we can rebuild." Over time, they healed. One evening, James led Grace to a beautifully lit pier, knelt before her, and said, "Grace, will you marry me?" With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "Yes." Their wedding took place in the flower shop's garden, where their love had truly blossomed. What did you think of James and Grace's story? Rate it from 0 to 10 and leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.